Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. I'm your host, Tiger Paul Craven. I got my boy Jordan Bowman, in the back. He will join us momentarily. But before we get into tonight's show, before we get into all this fall camp talk and conference expansion / realignment and all that craziness. Before we get into the show tonight, if you are not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Me and Jordan are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. To chop it up with you guys about Clemson football and college football in general, okay? This is a live video, as all of you know, so please hit that like button for us. Really helps us out. Get into the comment section. Comment. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Ask us questions. Interact with us throughout the show. And as you guys know, we always get to your comments and we always read and hear what you guys got to say and then let you guys drive the end of the show. So nothing's different than the usual tonight. Please go check out the main channel, Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. He does live videos all the time. Go check him out. Support him on Patreon. Support him on Discord. All that kind of stuff. He's got 24/7 lines over there that are always going crazy with all things college football. He's also launched merch. So head over to the main channel, Mark Rogers at the Voice of College Football, and you can find all of his merch there. If you find something you like, go ahead and get it and let him know that the boys over on the Clemson channel sent you over to get it. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Hey, what's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. I just barely got in on time. I was
telling you, man. You scraped in just in time, bro. Just in time.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have enough time to leave and get dinner and come back, and it did not work out the way I thought it would. So, but hey, I made it for the start of the show, so we all Gucci.
Hey, it happens, right? It happens. We're here though.
But yeah, other than that, it's just been a really exciting week. You know, finally fall camp is here. We've heard some really interesting nuggets, some players flashing, some true freshmen flashing, a little bit of chirpiness and chippiness in practice, maybe a little bit of scuffles going on.
Hey.
You know, some friendly competition. So I'm really excited to get into it. And there's also been some realignment news that we'll talk about as well. But I really want to focus the show on fall camp and what we've kind of been gleaning from the report so far.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We got a ton to get into tonight, man. Can you believe we're already, 6 practices into fall camp now? It's absolutely crazy, man. Time freaking flies, dude. Labor Day night, Clemson Tigers kicking off against the Duke Blue Devils is literally right around the corner. And I, much like yourself and the rest of the people in this chat, we cannot wait, man. It is coming. It is coming quickly. I can't wait. The only thing that would make this better is if we had live scrimmages to watch during fall camp. That would be the only thing that would make this better. Maybe one day we can get to that. I don't know. Maybe one day. Maybe we'll have like joint practices like the NFL does. I know we did it in high school football, so I don't know why they can't do it in college. It doesn't make very much sense. So.
Yeah, no, you know the college game, the NCAA, they always got to be. You got to have their rules and their stipulations. So there's always going to be. They always have to make things difficult. But hey, at this point, I'm ready to get football. It's like when August hits and all the news and coming out of camp and all of that, you really start feeling the anticipation. So
man,
ready to get going.
Ready to get going. It's going to be crazy. Hey, guys, if you guys didn't know, we hit 4,500 subscribers here recently. We're trying to continue to grow that. So share this Clemson channel with all your Clemson friends, man. Share it with your Clemson groups that you're in, whatever message boards you're on. get our videos out there, man. We're really trying to help Mark out. We're trying to grow this channel so that it is the biggest part of the Mark Rogers umbrella of channels. Okay, we're trying to outdo Michigan and Ohio State and all them other channels that got a little bit more than us. But guess what? We're coming for you. We're coming for you. We're going to grow this channel with your guys in the comment section's help. But before we get into tonight's show, Jordan, let's go ahead and do a shout out to the chat. All of our usual suspects that are in here tonight. We appreciate all of you. We got John Sarian in the chat. He's the first one to comment tonight. He says, I think some of the players getting pushed out of practice for fighting is a good sign. I would tend to agree with you, John. I would tend to agree with you. I think that shows the competitiveness of this team. I think that shows the hunger of this team. And I think that bodes well for moving forward, where this team's mindset is. That's what I think. The truth is in here. Thank you for getting in here. Not me is in here. The Clemson University. There you go. Way to rile up the Ohio State fans. I like it. I like it. Let's see. Who else we got in here? Tricksters is in here. Only 25 more days. Yes, sir. Only 25 more days. Hopefully we stay healthy through fall camp. Hey, our buddy Hardtake is in here. He took a hiatus for a little while, but he is back. Thank you for joining. Newborn in his arms. Okay.
Oh, wow. Congratulations,
hey, man. Hey, look. Got us on the big screen tonight. Look at us, Jordan. We're on the big screen. Who would have thought, man? Me and you on the big screen?
Look at us. We finally made it.
Hey, we made it. It may just be the Hardtake's big screen, but hey, it's a big screen regardless.
Absolutely. We'll take it any way we can get it.
We'll take it. Yeah, we'll take anything we can get. Ben Adams in here tonight. We appreciate you getting in here. Pat, aka Detective Loki.
Is that Pat Bateman? Is that the same person? I feel like it is. I feel like he went through a little rebrand. I see.
I see you. Yeah, we see what you did there. All right. Did I miss anybody, Jordan? I don't want to leave anybody out.
I think you missed your significant other in the chat.
Uh-oh. Thanks, babe. Appreciate you. That's my wife for everybody who doesn't know. So shout out to her. Thank you. Thank you for coming in and supporting. Show Out Gaming gets in. Nice to see you. Our buddy John over on the Voice of College Football Michigan channel in here, doing great content over there. You guys go support him. He's always in here supporting us. So go show him some love as well. I think that's it, right? No, Will. Will is in here. If you guys didn't watch our last episode, go back and watch our last episode with Will. We did a Notre Dame kind of breakdown where Will kind of told us what we didn't know about Notre Dame from their perspective. We kind of talked about, that big matchup coming up without getting too much into detail on the actual game, because at this point it is a million years away when it comes to college football. But yeah, I think I got to everybody, Jordan. So I think we're good to get into our show tonight, man.
Let's do it.
A lot of stuff coming out of fall camp, right? A lot of interviews, a lot of player interviews. Let's see. Where do you want to kick it? You want to kick it off with the conference expansion and get that out of the way first?
We can. I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. I mean, this week, and for those that aren't in the know what we're talking about, the ACC there have been talks for the past couple of weeks about potentially expanding. There's kind of been some going back and forth and some deliberating, but they finally put it to a vote, and they did not get the requisite amount of votes to move forward with the expansion. They were looking at Cal, Stanford, and SMU to potentially join the conference. There was a lot of pushing from the Notre Dame side of things, among some other schools that thought it would be potentially a good addition. But it wasn't enough support. I know firsthand that Clemson was on the no side of things, along with Florida State and North Carolina. And it seems like the ACC is not going to move forward with expansion. And from what I can tell, there doesn't seem to be any further possible discussion about it. It seems to be a done deal that this is not something that's going to be happening. From the Clemson perspective, I think it makes perfect sense to vote no. It doesn't do anything to move the needle as far as, the extra payout, the extra money that they would potentially be getting is kind of negligible. It's in Cal and Stanford are great academic institutions. Obviously, the ACC has a lot of great academic institutions, so you can see the kind of potential fit there. Beyond the geographic issues. But if you're Clemson and Florida State and if you're looking at this from a purely football perspective and the future of your athletic programs, this is not a move that was going to do really much of anything. And so it was good to see Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina. I thought it was interesting. North Carolina also voted no, which kind of gives you kind of a clue of what their head is at. But it was nice to see those three schools kind of in lockstep, and they were very steadfast no's across the board. And so the ACC does not appear to be on the verge of expanding anytime soon. And it kind of lets you know that these three schools in particular are still exploring ways to potentially find their way out of the conference. So I don't know what your takeaways were from it, but
yeah. So to be completely honest, my takeaways from it are I'm sick of talking about conference realignment and conference expansion and all this nonsense, to be completely honest. But it's really unavoidable at this point. I know me and you both do not like talking about this. We're not really excited about some of the changes that have happened in college football recently. However, they're here, and we have to talk about it when it comes up. And this is an important thing that happened in the ACC this week, so we got to bring it up on the show. But my thoughts were, just kind of, I don't want to say surprised, but just like, really? Like, this was the ACC's move after everything they've seen happen in college football over the past, 3 years now? Their move was, let's add Stanford, Cal, and SMU, and that's somehow going to fix whatever predicament they're in. No, those teams add zero value to the ACC when it comes to revenue generation. It adds zero value when it comes to closing the gap between the ACC and the Big Ten and the SEC, right? So it really made zero sense to me. It's not a surprise to me that Clemson voted no, that Florida State voted no. That's to be expected. Why would they want to hand out charity to some Pac-12 teams that are dead in the water just looking for anybody to take them in? And the fact that the ACC was even thinking about it, it shows to me the lack of leadership that the ACC still has. I don't think leadership in the ACC has gotten any better. Now, granted, they're in a really hard position right now because who are they really going to go get? Like, there's no one of real substance for the ACC to go try to acquire and make it a stronger conference that could go back to the table with ESPN and renegotiate and get more money. There's not, that team doesn't exist out there right now. And it's because the ACC has set aside for so long and waited and just sat on their hands. And let's think back, right? Let's think back to when the news first broke a couple off seasons ago, right? When the news first broke about Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC, right? To most college football fans, including myself, that was crazy, right? I heard that news and I was like, wait, what? Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12? They're going to the SEC? That's crazy, right? And then so much has happened since then. And now the ACC decides, like, that didn't the ACC in on the fact that the landscape in college football is changing, and maybe they need to get ahead of the curve, and maybe they need to start forward thinking to save their conference, right? But they didn't do that, and they've sat by idly, and they've wasted every opportunity that they might have. They might have still had an opportunity to pull some of those bigger Pac-12 teams, right? If they would have went after them earlier, right? Maybe they could have pulled an Oregon and a Washington to the ACC. Granted, it's kind of crazy to think about the ACC having a bunch of West Coast teams, but at the end of the day, you don't really have a choice in this day and age of college football. So if you would have went over there and got Oregon and Washington and, maybe a Utah and, whoever else you could have got, right? Maybe that would have made sense for the ACC. But to pull a Stanford and a Cal and a SMU, I mean, it just seems like a lazy reaction to everything that's happening in the landscape of college football. And to me, it spells disaster for the ACC. It spells that this conference is not here to last. Because honestly, looking at it, in my opinion, I don't know how the ACC lasts. I don't know how. Like, it feels like they're sitting back and like, well, we got the grant of rights deal through 2036 or whatever it is. So, no one can go anywhere. Like, really? ACC, that's your plan? You're just gonna look at the grant of rights deal, and you're gonna be like, yep. So, I don't know. It's frustrating to watch as a fan. It's frustrating to see all these moves happen in college football. But I just wish the ACC would be a little bit more proactive. I think we had a chance with Notre Dame back in 2020 to really force their hand to see if they would. Now Notre Dame may have been like, yeah, no, we'll just sit out the season. And they probably would have just set out the season, right? But why didn't the ACC use that opportunity in 2020 when Notre Dame had no shot of playing a season without the ACC, and they let them into the conference fully for one season? So Notre Dame got exactly what they wanted, and the ACC essentially got nothing. I don't understand it. I don't understand the leadership at the ACC. None of this decisions really make sense to me, and it kind of is what it is at this point. I think Florida State and Clemson and a lot of other schools are going to be leaving the ACC. How it happens, I don't know. How the grant of rights deal works, again, like I said last week, I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea how that stuff works. But I guarantee you there's more than just Florida State and Clemson looking for other options, because the writing is on the wall at this point. I really don't know where the ACC goes from here, because conference expansion for them is not an option. So I don't know the answer for the ACC to survive as a conference at this point.
I don't either. I really couldn't tell you. One thing I did find funny about this whole ordeal was the ACC finally growing a backbone. I put this out on Twitter. I said it was funny. The ACC finally grew a backbone to Notre Dame's whims. 10 years too late. Classic ACC.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the fact that Notre Dame gets a full vote to begin with is pretty interesting, and something I wasn't aware of until all this news came about. But yeah, on the Notre Dame front, and I don't blame Notre Dame, because they took advantage of poor leadership from the ACC, and just kind of, when this grant of rights was initially signed, there was a lot of, the ACC was at a point where, Maryland had just left. There was some uncertainty about, other teams to follow. I mean, a couple of years prior, Clemson and Florida State, there was a bunch of rumors that they would end up in the Big 12 at one point, if you remember that. So there was a lot of uncertainty around the league. And when they signed that grant of rights deal, and they were able to get Notre Dame into the fold, there was a lot of pretense, and there was a lot of hope that Notre Dame would eventually become a full member, and was a driving force to why a lot of these schools, signed that grant of rights. And they thought, well, if we can get Notre Dame, and if we're all together, all in together for this, and here for the long run, this could be a good move for the conference. And there were some promises made from the ACC side that weren't kept, and we are where we are now because of it. And I thought it was really, really ironic that Notre Dame gets a full vote, and then they actually, the conference actually said no for once.
I mean, it's about time, like you say, but 10 years too late. And the fact that they had a vote to begin with is just mind-boggling. I mean, just like what? Who wrote this deal with Notre Dame? Like, they had to be a Notre Dame alum. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way, dude. There's no way. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't hate Notre Dame at all. Look, they've taken advantage of the ACC for a long time, and it's the ACC's fault. It's not Notre Dame's fault. The ACC let them do it. They've welcomed all of this. They let them be a part of the conference in every other sport except football. Again, doesn't make sense. The ACC is literally the only conference out here doing this stupid stuff with an independent. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a rudderless ship. I think the ACC is dead, honestly. I think it's in my opinion, the ACC ending is it's a matter of when, not if, right? It's not if the ACC is going to dissolve as a conference. I think it's when they dissolve as a conference. And maybe they don't dissolve completely as a conference, but definitely as the conference as we know them. I don't think they survive because, I mean, you see all the teams that the Big 12 have added, that the Big 10 have added. The SEC has added Oklahoma and Texas. They're probably going to add some more at some point in time. Who those teams are, we'll see. But it's really shaping up to be those three conferences in major college football. And I'm not sure that there are any moves out there where the ACC can become a fourth conference in that kind of scenario that we're seeing shape out. But
at least not the way it's currently constructed.
Yeah, and unless something crazy, unforeseen happens, I don't see it, man. I don't know. I don't know what they do. If I was in charge, I honestly don't know what I would do at this point because it's kind of so far out of hand that I don't know if that's kind of the worst part, right? Is like I don't know if there is an answer for the ACC at this point. Like I don't know if there is a legitimate thing that they could do at this point because they've let it go so far because they haven't been proactive. I don't know that it's even fixable at this point. But, that's why they get paid a whole bunch more money than me and you, Jordan. And that's why they're presidents and board of trustees and all those kind of people. So I guess all those smart people will figure it out somehow. I don't know. But
that's a big ask. I mean, trust me. Just because you have a fancy title and you make a lot of money doesn't mean you actually know what you're doing and is good at your job. That's we've learned that across multiple, not just in football but other occupations as well. So but I did see it in the comment section. I think it was Will that asked it. He said, "Do we think that Clemson and Florida State will make a move by this mythical August 15th deadline?" I said no.
No.
I'm skeptical. If it hasn't come out by now, I don't expect it to. And here's the thing. I don't think Clemson and Florida State are in a rush to get out right this instant and be in. I think the way things are currently set up, Clemson and Florida State will be able to operate at the deficit they're operating at for maybe the next 2 or 3 years. At least when 2026 hits and
when those new TV deals kick in, that's gonna be the start where the top schools in the ACC, like a Clemson, a Florida State, maybe a Miami, maybe a North Carolina.
Right.
That's where those teams are really gonna start feeling it. When these new SEC and Big Ten deals kick in, that's when they're gonna start feeling it.
Yeah.
And as we know, those two conferences are going to go back to the table before the ACC deal is done. So this new contract that kicks in will run its course, and then they'll go back for probably at that point, I would assume, even more money. And Clemson and Florida State and all the rest of the ACC schools, if it stays par for the course, right, will still be sitting at where we're at right now, unchanged, unmoved. Same TV deal, which is mind-boggling to think about. And it is on the schools too. It is on the schools. Look, they signed the grant of rights deal. They did sign it. Every school signed it in the ACC. So it is on those administrators and everybody that decided that it was a good idea to sign those deals with the ACC that gave them exclusive rights. And I get why the ACC did it. They did it because Maryland left, and Maryland barely had to pay anything to the ACC, and they kind of did what they wanted when they left. So I understand why the ACC did it, and I get that, in order to launch the ACC network, the conference had to create stability and all that kind of stuff. But, no one thought it would be as bad as it looks right now. So, hindsight's always 20/20, especially when it comes to contracts and money and things like that. These things change quickly. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Look, who knows when teams will be able to get out of the ACC, but I guarantee you it's going to happen at some point. There will be a way out. I don't see this lasting to 2036. I can tell you that. Right. I don't know how it's going to end, but I'd be willing to bet a whole lot of money that it'll end before 2036, as currently constructed.
Yeah. Death Valley Tiger asked a great question. He says, do you think they will need to add some sports to be considered for other conference entrants? Well, I think you're already starting to see that. I think the moves that Clemson has made the past couple of seasons, it really started with the addition of the softball program and the preservation of the track program. But then you also saw them add lacrosse and gymnastics. And I think you're seeing Clemson starting to expand a little bit more into the Olympic sports. They already have a men's soccer program, which isn't sponsored by the SEC. And so I think Clemson is in a lot of different, they have quite a few sports that aren't, that are more on the Olympic sports type of thing. I saw him just mention wrestling.
Yeah.
I think that's something that could be on the table in the future. But I do think you're starting to see the athletic department expand into more of the Olympic sports that especially conferences like the Big Ten are really into. So
it seems that Clemson's adding sports every offseason at this point.
Yeah.
They're building new athletic facilities. They're building, they're starting new team. They got the women's lacrosse team now. So they have been expanding that kind of stuff. Is it for that reason? I would hope so.
Part of it.
That the people at Clemson are that forward thinking and making themselves attractive to as many, conferences as they could. So it definitely doesn't hurt that we've been, it seems like, expanding nonstop in the sports realm for the past, 4 or 5 years, building new facilities, starting new teams.
Absolutely. All right. I think that's
let's move on. Let's
get into stuff we actually like talking about, football.
Absolutely, man. It's time for some fall camp talk, man. It's time for some football talk, all that conference realignment. We will leave that in the rearview mirror. Clearly, we made our thoughts known, and we'll leave it there, man. We will leave it there.
But it's been from everything that I've heard about this week and really these first 6 practices in fall camp, I think the competitiveness has been my main takeaway, just from everything that I've read and heard, is that the competitiveness from the offense and the defense is in a better spot than it's been in the past couple of seasons. I think If you go back to previous off, well, at least the last two off seasons, it always felt like you would hear stuff occasionally about the particular offensive players, but it was very clear, especially when you saw it on the field, that the defense, for the most part, typically dominated spring and fall camp, and that kind of translated over to the field. We know those offenses weren't particularly good, but I think one thing that has changed, with this offseason is the competitiveness on both sides. I think the offense has definitely made more explosive plays.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing, a chippiness. I think I don't remember who it was that interviewed. It might have been.
It was today's interview. It was Antonio Williams.
I'm not thinking about that one. I'm thinking about this might have been a couple of days ago. It was one defensive back. I might have been Sheridan Jones, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't actually remember. But talked about how the competitiveness was different than it had been the past couple of years, and that the offense it definitely was getting them. And it was so much harder to play against because of the difference in obviously the new scheme, the difference in the flexibility and the dynamic nature of Garrett Riley's offense made it really, really difficult to defend. And so the offense has had more success than they've had in previous years, or at least the past couple. And that's kind of translated and it kind of it's been corroborated by the things we've heard from the wide receiver room and some of the guys that are flashing at running back and the offensive line. And so I think this is a really, really good sign and a lot of positive news for the most part. We will talk about a couple of the injury stuff that has come out about Hunter Helms and obviously we know Troy Stellato came in limited, but for the most part, this has been a really, really positive first six practices for the offense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, Clemson came into fall camp, and Dabo Swinney. You think back to ACC media days, right? And you think about to when he was talking about the accountability numbers. Everybody who doesn't know, Dabo does accountability numbers for the offseason all throughout the year. And that can consist as anything from going to class to kind of strength and conditioning type stuff, right? All inclusive kind of accountability numbers. And he said this team has the best accountability numbers that he's seen in probably 4 or 5 years, which is super encouraging, right? So we head into fall camp. Not only that, we're way more healthy than we ever have been. At least the past couple seasons heading into fall camp. And to my knowledge so far, we haven't had any major injuries in fall camp that we know of yet. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, that those do not happen. But it seems that there is a certain level of competitiveness to this group. You hear, I'll tell you one thing, one common theme that has kind of struck me. And I don't know if any other Clemson team has done this. They typically kind of shy away from this type of talk. But I feel like maybe not every guy that's been interviewed in fall camp, but I feel like 90% of the guys that have been interviewed in fall camp, they mentioned the national championship as being the end goal. They mention like that's what they're hunting for. That's what they're hungry for. That's what they're working for every single day. And that's not something that you typically hear out of a Clemson team. You can see the hunger in this group. You can see that they want it. If you watched Antonio Williams' interview from today, he mentioned that a couple dudes had to be taken off the field due to fighting over at Jervey Meadows, which is the hot box for Clemson in fall camp that they go through every year that we'll get into more of here as we talk about fall camp. And that's kind of how the Clemson staff and Dabo Swinney really likes to build that mental toughness for the team and really make them lock in and really make them, create that grit that it takes to get through those tough games and get through a long season. And you hear him talk about how guys are fighting and having to get taken off the field. And to me as a fan, what that says is, man, we got a hungry group. We got a competitive group. We got a group that is going at each other, and we got a group that could be special if they stay healthy and if, you catch a little luck along the way. Luck is involved in every single playoff run ever in college football, in the NFL. I don't care what level you're in. There's a certain amount of luck involved, right? But this group seems especially hungry. They seem especially locked in. There's a lot of veteran leadership that stayed, that didn't have to stay, that stayed. And I believe that what it seems to me is they're holding the young guys accountable, and they're creating an environment where everybody's accountable for what they do. And if you don't bring your A game, you're probably going to be exposed in practice. It ain't going to take until game day for you to get exposed, because these dudes are so locked in on practice. You're going to get exposed long before game day. And that's encouraging heading into a season.
Absolutely, man. And to your point, I think that's one of the biggest things that has really excited me about, just hearing about everything that's come out of fall camp is not only do you have the veteran leadership that has come back and has, played a pivotal role, but I think the young guys that have come in are beyond their years. So I think there's a lot of guys that are in here that are already not just physically mature, but really mentally mature and really about their business. And I think that's when you have that combination of veteran leadership and youth that are willing and ready to learn and take accountability and go to work, I think that's always a good sign. And I think that's kind of what the theme has been, so far in these first 6 practices. I think there's just a lot of there's a lot of healthy competitiveness, and I think guys are really paying attention and really sticking to the details and really honing their craft. And I think that's really exciting for the prospects for week 1.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, I'm excited about this, and I'll tell you what, listening to Dabo Swinney's interview excited me even more. Talking about the offensive line, he talked about, Tristan Lay and Colin Sadler, and how those dudes are truly battling at left tackle, right? Those dudes are back and forth. I think if the game was played, on Saturday, I think Tristan Lay would run out there first. If everything is to believed, everything coming out is to be believed, I think Tristan Lay would run out there first, right? But to hear that Colin Sadler is nipping at his heels, that he's pushing him, that he's making him have to answer the bell and perform, that's encouraging. And then you talk about, Marcus Tate sliding out there as well. You talk about other guys that they're repping out there. They're really trying to get a 3 to 5 man deep along the tackle, right? Dabo Swinney talked about the cohesiveness of the center and the 2 guards and how those dudes are so locked in, right? How, you got Will Putnam and Marcus Tate and
Walker Parks.
Thank you. And those dudes have had so many snaps together that they are kind of a gelled group. They work as a unit. They move as a unit. They make mistakes as a unit. So even when they're wrong, they're right, according to Dabo Swinney, right? And that core, that center of the offensive line is so strong. And then you got a Blake Miller who made a lot of freshman mistakes last year, but also grew a lot, right? So you expect him to be even stronger to tee up the right side of the offensive line. And then to hear that guys like Colin Sadler and Tristan Lay are out there battling for that left tackle position, I really think that an offensive line that was okay last year but inconsistent at times could really become a strength for this Clemson team. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think the continuity that just speaks to the continuity. I mean, the interior of the offensive line, which has been really Achilles heel of the Clemson offensive line the past couple of seasons. I think having these guys, they've played a lot of snaps together, and they've really grown together. I mean, I remember Marcus Tate being thrown out there as a starter at left guard week 1 against Georgia back in 2021, and just to kind of see how he's grown these past couple of years, I think has really, really shown. And Walker Parks has really grown at guard. You know, he started out as a tackle, but he was willing to put in the work and do what Clemson needed him to do. Slid into that right guard spot, and he's answered the bell. And then Will Putnam has just gotten better and better each year at center. I think it's really, really encouraging. And so I think having that interior be really, really solid, I think that's paramount, because if you're getting beat at center and guard, it's hard to get a lot going. It's really hard to get you can kind of scheme around some poor tackle play if you know what you're doing. But if you're getting beat at center, it's really hard to get anything going. And any football coach would tell you that it is really difficult if you're getting beat at center. And so I think just having that, your core be really, really strong, it really allows and takes some of the pressure off the tackles. And I think Blake Miller is continuing to take strides, and we'll see what happens with left tackle. But it's definitely been encouraging hearing how Tristan Lay and Colin Sadler have been playing in practice and kind of going at it. So I think the offensive line is in a really, really good shape right now. I think it's all about developing depth and just who are the guys behind them that are really, really, stepping up, and who's ready to play right now if somebody goes down. I think that's something that has, I think that was kind of the difference maker last year. You saw the starting 5 for the offensive line be really, really strong in, especially in the run game. But when Marcus Tate goes down, when Jordan McFadden is limited, when you start to get into that depth a little bit, there are some questions and some lackluster play. So I think you definitely saw it in that Orange Bowl with Jordan McFadden limited, and then Marcus Tate not playing. I think there was a lot of you could tell the drop off, and so I think that's really what I'm looking for, and what I'm want to hear more of coming out of this, these first 6 practices, is who is stepping up behind them, who's going to be in that 2 deep,
absolutely,
that can step in and not just play one position really well, but come in and play multiple positions if needed.
Absolutely.
Really, really well.
And you hear a guy like Dietrich Pennington, right? You hear Dabo talk about a guy like Dietrich Pennington who's repping with the 2s, right? A guy that came in with a whole lot of promise to Clemson, right? Ended up tearing his ACL, gained some weight, kind of got lazy, didn't really do what he needed to do when it comes to working out and, doing his rehab and doing everything that he could to push back. And, and that's a guy that Clemson expected to play as a freshman, kind of. They expected that guy to contribute as a freshman, and it didn't work out, right? But Dabo Swinney talks about a guy like Dietrich Pennington, right? That's probably going to be a 2 deep along the offensive line. But I don't think people understand the importance of a 2 deep along the offensive line. And having a guy like Dietrich Pennington that has a renewed dedication to his body, to his play on the field, he's putting, according to Dabo Swinney, he's putting his best days together. He's stringing together a lot of good days. Maybe needs to work on his conditioning just a little bit more. Gets a little bit tired as the drives get long. But a guy that's progressing, right? A guy that could contribute. Talking about that 2 deep. And then he went further and talked about, giving Will Putnam, our returning center, a guy that had never snapped before he got to Clemson. And now he's, coming on a second year of a starting center. And now he's been given the responsibility of protection and taking some of that responsibility off of Cade so that he can play more free. I think that's important. So he talked about how the offensive line has a bit more freedom when it comes to protections and making those kind of adjustments to take a little bit of the load off of Cade.
Absolutely. And so I'm really, really excited so far with everything I'm hearing about this offensive line. And I think, it was to be expected. I mean, when you return 4 or 5 starters, you expect to have some continuity there. But it's really nice to actually, hear it. So I'm really, really pleased so far with what I've heard about the offensive line, and just waiting to hear more. But
absolutely,
kind of taking it to a little bit another position group that has a lot of different names we've heard about is this wide receiver route.
Absolutely. That's where I was going to go next, man. That's good.
Yeah, we were on the same page. I think one of the things that has really jumped out so far is how much they've talked about the two not early enrollees, but summer enrollees, and Tyler Brown and Ronan Hannafin. Especially Tyler Brown. Dabo was basically, he was like, he's really, really fast, and he is a lot further along than I thought he would. And I tweeted out, I was like, well, Dabo, if you had been listening to our show every week, you would know that Tyler Brown is farther along than most true freshman wide receivers. But
come on, Dabo, give us a listen, bro. Come on.
Yeah,
every now and then, me and Jordan say something that that's profound. You just gotta, you gotta work through all our other stuff.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
You got to work through the technical difficulties and stuff.
Yeah.
Underneath all of that, we occasionally have some good takes
for sure.
Listen, Tyler Brown is obviously the speed is what really jumped out. When you look at his high school tape, but what I think is kind of went unnoticed, and something that we've mentioned on the show a lot is that he's really, really polished. Mazio Bennett, who's a 2024 wide receiver, who's his former teammate, was the higher rated guy. But Tyler Brown was the focus of that passing game at Greenville last year. And I think that's something that kind of went unnoticed. He's just a guy that goes to work and does the little things really, really well. He's not the traits aren't, they don't jump off the page. Like physically, he's not the most impressive, but the speed is there. And you combine that with being really, really technically sound, and that's a guy that you want coming in, and a guy that always has a really good chance of working in to get some early playing time. And so he's kind of like Antonio Williams in that mold. Is just a guy that one is just really, really polished, really, really early. Mm-hmm. May not be quite at Antonio Williams level, but they kind of have that similar mold, and a guy that could definitely work into the rotation this year and play really early. Antonio Williams could give Antonio Williams some relief at slot, especially with a lot of the uncertainty that we've had. With Will Taylor leaving and Troy Stellato being limited. I mean, you really. You still have Brandon Spector, but beyond and to a certain extent, Cole Turner, but they kind of use him outside as well. But there's a lot of room to work your way up, and Tyler Brown is certainly in a good position to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this wide receiver room, Dabo had a lot to say about the wide receiver room, and Tyler Brown was definitely one of them that he talked about how technically, just his understanding of the playbook was way further along than he thought it would be, right? Talked about Tink Kelly, right? A guy that's smooth, man. He just kind of, he's a natural with the ball in his hand. He knows what to do. And he talked about how, he's flashed. Both of those guys have kind of flashed in fall camp. And they both got ball skills. They both can run, obviously, but just kind of surprised by their just ability to kind of affect the Clemson offense and create plays and create space for themselves to catch balls. And then he went on to talk about a guy like Noble Johnson, right, who's played a couple different positions for Clemson, right? Played at the Z, played at the X. He's made a ton of progress since spring. But, still developing, still trying to figure things out. as we saw in spring, maybe Noble Johnson's a guy that kind of needs a year. We saw him in spring. He did make some big plays. He did flash, but he had some plays where you're like, okay, he's still learning. He's still progressing. So we'll see where he is at the end of spring. I think it's important to create depth at that wide receiver position, right? Because nothing's promised, right? Every single wide receiver is one cut away from, being out for the season, basically, right? He talked about a Ronan Hannafin, which is a guy that we've been super interested in. Talked about how he has flashed, but he's got a lot on his plate. What does that mean to me? When I hear that, that makes me think that, he's bogged down in the playbook, right? He's struggling with learning the complete, offense, right? He knows a lot of things. He's probably physically capable, but the mental side, he's kind of working through that playbook. Probably that's what that means to me. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful for. And then you listen to Bo Collins' interview that he had in fall camp. I think it was, I can't remember what day it was at this point. I've listened to basically all the interviews, but he talked about, him being as healthy as he's ever been since kind of his freshman year. He hasn't really been healthy. This is, I think his exact words were, "This is as healthy as I've been since I've been at Clemson," because he came in with kind of a knick-knack injury when he came into Clemson. So this is as healthy as he's felt since he's been at Clemson. I think Bo Collins is a guy that can really be a number one guy when it comes to the receiver position. And then you got a guy like, obviously Adam Randall, who, seems to be running around well, seems to be moving well. He's fully healthy. He's kind of a dog on the outside. He's a big body guy. He can go up and get the ball. He can high point. He's athletic. He's fast. So I think our receiver room's in the best position it's been since I don't even know, like probably in the last 3 years. Yeah. It's in the best position it's been. So I think there's a lot of things to be positive about if you're a Clemson fan. But again, health is going to be key. If we lose those top guys, it's going to be, again, it's going to be kind of a thing where we're kind of looking for some young guys to step up. And I think we do have a bit more depth when it comes to going into this season than we did, maybe last season or even the season before. But again, health is always a huge deal in college football and any level of football. You need a little luck on your side when it comes to the injury bug. And if we can keep our receiving core healthy, I think we got the guys that could really put up some big numbers this year. And, I think Cade will get them the ball for sure.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think also kind of stood out, and it was kind of a nugget I got from my boy Anthony Weeks over at Clemson Sports Media. A shout out to you if you're listening. But a nugget that he got in while viewing practice was there was one rep where there was one wide receiver cornerback rep. I believe it was Adam Randall and Sheridan Jones, and Adam Randall beat him. Cade, he put a good ball, and Sheridan Jones grabbed and drew the PI flag. And one thing that stood out to me was Tyler Grisham was quoted as saying, "Don't let him grab you, make the play." Like normally there's if you get grabbed and you draw the PI, it's like it's really that's good and that's a positive.
Yeah, everybody's happy. Yeah.
But Tyler Grisham seems to the attitude was a little bit different. He was like, it's like, no, I don't care if he grabs you. You need to go and make that play. But don't let him.
I like that.
I thought that. I think that, and it was a lot more intense than that. But I'm not going to yell. So I think the attitude in this wide receiver room is a little bit different. I think they're really trying to instill that alpha mentality, that dog. I'm going to go get it. The ball is mine when it goes up. I think that's something that certainly, at least in appearance, the past couple of seasons has been lacking.
And so to kind of build on your point, one of the things that stuck out to me is Antonio Williams today. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to his interview or not, but I think it was at like the tail end of him answering a question today, and he was like, "Oh yeah, and we're blocking this year too," and that made me smile.
Yeah.
It wasn't asked, it wasn't anything. It was something he added, like I think extra on the end of a question, but it's something that made me smile as a fan because one of the things that when Clemson's receiver room was wide receiver U, right? When it was at its greatest, when when you had the Justin Ross and the T. Higgins and even going further back to DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins and all those guys, blocking was a thing of pride with those guys. Those guys used to, kind of talk smack at each other like, "Oh, I block better than you. You see that block I got on the outside? Yeah, you can't do that block, right?" And they used to compete with blocks, and that seems to be maybe a theme or a kind of a culture that's coming back in the Clemson wide receiver room, which is again another encouraging thing to hear a player talk about. Right, it's not a coach talking about it; it's a player volunteering the information at the end of a question, like, "Oh yeah, and we're blocking this year too." Right, so it always means more coming from a player, especially when it's an unsolicited kind of response. So that really stood out to me as well.
100%. And yeah, I think we speak for all Clemson fans when we say, we definitely miss those days.
Yeah, for sure.
The Deion Kane and Artavis Scott and those guys were.
Yeah, man, those dudes used to block, man. Like
that used to be a point of pride.
They were animals out there, man. They were,
but
they almost cared. They almost cared more. I know they didn't care more about that than catching a touchdown pass, but
but they treated it like
they treated it like it was as important as catching the ball and running 50 yards down the field, which is what it takes. All those dudes got to be bought in, and I think that's the biggest thing when you look at this new Clemson offense. There is not even just the Clemson offense, just the Clemson team in general. There's a renewed excitement. You can see it when guys are interviewing, man. Like, it's different than it's been the past 2 years. Me and you for sure. We're definitely, some of the closest followers that comes. I literally watch like every interview I can get my hands on, and as do you. I read, as much as the articles as I can find. I probably miss a couple, but again, I work. You work, you go to school, all that kind of stuff, right? But we consume as much Clemson media as we possibly can. And this team feels different. I'm just saying, this team feels different. They got a different approach. They got a different attitude. They conduct themselves in a different way. They're very confident in their interviews. They're not afraid to be like, "Yeah, we want to win a national championship." Guys like Rook that interviewed are like, "Yeah, that's exactly why I came back. Of course, I want to win a national championship." Whereas other teams have kind of shied away from saying that. This group of Clemson guys, especially in interviews, they're not afraid to say it, and that's something that you haven't seen a lot, kind of in past Clemson teams.
Absolutely. All right, you want to you want to kind of switch over to the other side of the ball because I know people want to hear about the offense because that's just kind of that's kind of what has dominated the questions and conversation about Clemson football. But there's been some really cool, interesting nuggets about the defense as well.
Oh, for sure. Before we move on to the offense, I got a question for you because I saw this like literally right before I took the show live. Did Hunter Helms come to? I saw that Hunter Helms came to practice today in a boot.
Yes, he did.
What's up with that?
He has a sprain.
Before we move on to the defense, what is up with that? Because that's our second string quarterback. At least I think it is.
Yeah. He's been taking all the reps with the twos. He is clearly in prime position to be the backup quarterback, especially with, Chris Vizina looks to be hitting a red shirt, and, Paul Tyson was limited in spring. So he's still working from behind. So, Hunter Helms did come to practice today in a boot. He has a sprained ankle.
Okay. All right. We can deal with a sprained ankle.
He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. So that's the hope.
That's like right up to the first game.
Yeah, it's going to be cutting it close. So Hunter Tyson, not Hunter Tyson. Shout out to Hunter Tyson though. He's been balling. He was balling in the summer. But Paul Tyson,
took second reps today.
He did take the second string reps. Cool. So, and if Hunter Helms isn't able to go, Paul Tyson will be the backup quarterback. Chris Vizina is he's pretty much they're planning to redshirt him. And I think that's just kind of, it is what it is. And it doesn't surprise me knowing that, knowing Chris Vizina and just kind of his how he played in high school and kind of what he needs to kind of work on. He was more of a gamer. He didn't always play within structure. There's some technical things and just kind of understanding the playbook and playing within the system that he still needs to develop, and that's just natural. But still really high on. I don't think that this red shirt should have Clemson fans being like, oh, is he worrying about whether he's really, because he's really, really talented. And I'm really excited to see what when he gets a full year under Garrett Riley. And just kind of without the pressure of being a backup or anything like that, and just being able to sit and watch and learn.
Here's the thing. Even if he was ready to play, why wouldn't we redshirt him if we could?
Yeah.
I mean, redshirting is never a bad thing.
Right.
If you have the ability to redshirt him, that means your starting quarterback stayed healthy and played great, right? So, and then pick your 4 games that he comes in and cleans up garbage time and kind of works on things. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Chris Vizina is going to be a great player. Look, he's going to be really good. Make no mistake about it. That kid is a baller. So, yeah, absolutely not. Like, look, he's gonna be just fine. But we got our number one guy right now. And here, speaking of the quarterback position, before we move on to defense, just real quick, talking about Cade Klubnik's development at the leadership position, that's encouraging to hear.
Absolutely.
But let's move on to defense, man.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I think we should start at the most obvious position for me, anyway. The biggest question mark, defensive end. Let's start there.
It's been a really interesting, just kind of hearing who's kind of been stepping up in the spring so far, not the spring, the fall so far. One player that's gotten a lot of rave reviews is TJ Parker, true freshman.
Yes, sir.
He's done a lot to work his way up, and there seems to be some there seems to be some real smoke to the fact that he could be in that 2 deep when week 1 rolls around. So that's really exciting. I mean, we know how talented he is. One of the higher rated defensive line prospects in Clemson's class, freshman class. So it's not the most surprising thing in the world, but he's come in and really been ready, and he's really attacked this fall especially, and really impressed the coaches. And so that's exciting because you need that depth. You think what you have in XT if he's healthy. Justin Maskell I think he's gotten a lot of compliments from the coaching staff this fall. So there seems to be some optimism that he's really going to take a step this year. But past that, you don't really have. There's still a lot of question marks. I mean, of course, you still have Zaire Patterson, Cade Denhoff. Armand Mason is a guy that nobody was talking about that has really, really impressed, and they think he's one of the best pass rushers on the team. So you're starting to see that depth at defensive end really starting to be developed, and I think some of the true freshmen coming in and playing and really showing out definitely helps a lot in kind of creating that competition. So the guys that you've kind of been waiting on, like the aforementioned, Patterson and Denhoff, are also, really stepping up and pushing and working hard. And so I think that's really good news for a position that has some question marks as far as the depth is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think all Clemson fans know what we have in Xavier Thomas and Justin Maskell when it comes to the starting defensive ends, right? It's really more of a question if we can keep those guys healthy and what do the guys look like behind an XT and a Justin Maskell, right? And I know Dabo talked about Justin Maskell this week, and he talked about him kind of being, he hopes he can be kind of the KJ Henry of this season, a guy that has been here, he's put in his time, he's done the work, and it kind of just comes all together for him, right? We all would love that for Justin Maskell, right? But it starts with health, right? These defensive ends, especially the top two guys, XT, Justin Maskell, they got to stay healthy. Just like the wide receivers that we just talked about, without health on the defensive end side of the ball, like we're going to be dead in the water when it comes to defensive end if we cannot keep these two top guys healthy. And then again, it goes to Denhoff and these guys really have to step up. They have to develop. They have to contribute significant playing time and play at a very high level because XT and Maskell can't be out there every single play. It's not possible. So these guys really got to step up. I know everybody got in the weight room this offseason. I know everybody put in their work. Everybody looks to have transformed their body. Clemson's got a new nutritionist. She looks to have put in a ton of work and really individualized the plans when it comes to players and tending to their individual needs. But defensive end is a very important position for these Clemson Tigers. And Dabo Swinney was quoted in his interview talking about how this is a nasty group, right? They're a stingy group. They're a defense that doesn't allow a lot to go on. And that's encouraging. But we need Justin Maskell and we need XT to really step up and be those guys. And then the guys behind them, Cade Denhoff. He even talked about a Jaheim Lawson and stuff like that behind them. Guys that are further down the road, but guys that could contribute, right? If the right situations arise. So I think the depth at defensive end is really a point of emphasis for this Clemson defense. Probably, in my opinion, the biggest point of emphasis. Just because as much as I want to see XT go out there and dominate for 12, 13, 14, 15 games if we get to the national championship, we got to hope and pray that our top two guys stay healthy, right? Yeah. And that's not a guarantee in college football. As great a shape as XT is in, believe me, guys, if you haven't seen him, the dude looks like a freaking robot. Like I don't even know. He looks like a robot. But again, he's got to stay healthy, and I hope he does stay healthy. Him and Justin Maskell, because these are money-making years for them. This is their very last chance to put on the best displays possible for the NFL and to help Clemson win a national championship. So if we could do that and they could go out on top, I think XT would be extremely happy with his decision to stay 6 years in college. When he was originally, if you heard his interview earlier this week, a 3-and-done guy for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, not every 5-star is built the same. Not every 5-star has the same, path in college. And obviously XT, I think if things had gone a little bit better for him off the field and in his personal life, I think, things could have been different. But especially when COVID hit. But that's not always what's in store. And but I think that he could have transferred out a long time ago.
For sure.
I always wondered if that was something that could potentially happen, but he's waited and he's been patient, and he's through all the setbacks, he's stuck with it, and he's really primed to have a big season. So I'm really excited for him. And then hearing the good things about Justin Mascall is encouraging as well, because that's a guy that quite frankly I've just always been really just kind of lukewarm on. It's just a guy that hasn't had a whole lot of production in his career. So I think that's something that should be really, really exciting. He came in at he's a really, talented recruit, 4-star guy. When he came to Clemson, but he's been behind some really, really good defensive linemen over the years. But I think now is the time for him to really, really put it all together. So I like what I've heard so far.
Absolutely. Fall camp sounding good so far, man.
Yeah,
sounding good so far.
Also, I do want to hit on the linebackers. Well, at least somewhat. I want to talk about Khalil Barnes, because he's a guy that has, came in as a defensive back, but he's been taking reps at linebacker. Obviously, with the dismissal of T.J. Dudley, there's some, there's some question marks there as far as.
And everybody knows what he did in the spring game.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think you could see Khalil Barnes in sort of a hybrid linebacker role, defensive linebacker, defensive back role. And I think that's encouraging, considering Wade Woodez has put on some weight. And so that could potentially be another option there. If you want a little bit more speed, and I think that's exciting as well. But all in all, the secondary in general has been really, really. I think I've heard some really, really good things. Just the competitiveness there. I think there is a lot to be excited about. And there have been moments where they haven't looked as good, because I think there's the people that have gone to the practices and seen firsthand, the passing game looks really, really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a product of how good the offense is, and not really how whether the secondary is poor, because I think the secondary is in really, really good shape to be a strength of the Clemson defense this year. So I all in all, I think the reviews so far on both sides of the ball have been really, really positive. Now, at the end of the day, you gotta see it on the field. But so far, this seems to have a different feel than the past couple of seasons. As far as heading in, there seems to be a little bit of a less of a quiet, uncertain optimism that was kind of the vibe you got in previous years. But I think this year there's just a really genuine enthusiasm and excitement for the potential of this team.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Look, hey, I think Dabo said it best when he talked about the offense and the defense, right? He talked about how the offense, yes, this offense has hit some big plays. But he also talked about the defense and how this is an absolute stingy defense. And I think when you hear the defensive guys come up to the podium after practice, during fall camp, they're talking about, yes, this offense is good. They keep us off our toes. They keep us guessing. They keep us, kind of unbalanced. But Dabo Swinney made no mistake about it. This is a stingy defense. This defense means business. They hit. They take pride in what they do. And I think the offense does as well. And that's only going to make this Clemson team better, because these guys are competing. We just heard from Antonio Williams. Several dudes had to be, hey, kicked to the locker room, early showers. Got a little too emotional on the practice field. That's where you want your guys to get emotional, is on the practice field, competing against each other, making each other better, making each other mad enough in order to swing, and then going to hit the showers early, because guess what? We got better today. We got better than so and so university. We got better than that university. We got better today. So super encouraging stuff coming out of Clemson Fall Camp. No major injuries so far. Super thankful for that. Knock on wood. Yeah, man. Look, it's a short couple of weeks away until we kick off the ball against Duke. How crazy is that, man?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but we're getting close, and just the more I hear, the more anticipation I feel, and it just makes me just that much more antsy. Like, this is always the toughest part of the off season, because you're right there, and it's only so many weeks away, and especially knowing that we play 2 days after most of everybody else does.
I know, right?
So even when the games are going on that Saturday, it's like, we still have Sunday, which we have a really Florida State and LSU will be a really good matchup to watch that day. But that's still 2 days in between, Saturday and that Monday. So just there's a lot of reason to be excited when you can feel it. It's close.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely close. It seems that I don't know if you've seen a lot of this out of fall camp, but we talked about Andrew Bakuba a lot, right? We talked about him last year, about how he obviously did not have the year that he wanted to have, based off of not playing his true position of safety, but he's started every practice so far, according to the media, at nickel. Still playing that nickel position, not playing his true safety position like we thought he would this year. Do you think that's a result of the leanness at linebacker, or why do you think Clemson is playing so much nickel when it comes to practice?
I think the end goal is to get your best safeties on the field. I think having Makuba at nickel allows them to have Jalen Phillips and RJ Mickens on the field, at all three of those guys at the same time. I think that's the end goal. And I will say that, nickel in football terminology can mean a lot of things.
Yes, absolutely.
There are a lot of different responsibilities that a nickel corner or nickel safety or a nickel linebacker can have, and depending on what the package is and what the defensive play call is, it can carry a bunch of different responsibilities. So, I mean, he could be a nickel, he could be a nickel defensive back and be close to the line of scrimmage, and not necessarily have a be playing lined up against a receiver. There's a lot of different ways that you could play that. So, I mean, I do think there's some ambiguity there, but I do until I see how exactly they're using him at nickel, I'm going to withhold judgment. I did not like how he was used last year. Obviously, there were some necessities for why he was used the way he was last year, but he clearly was not in a position from a health perspective to really be able to play that position. But when he's healthy, it could be something that works out. That's just something we're gonna have to see. But if he's playing closer to the line of scrimmage, that's ultimately where I want to see him. So whether he's in that nickel role or whether he's a true safety, I still would like him, closer to the line of scrimmage and playing more in the run game and stuff like that, instead of playing man and having to guard receivers one-on-one. I like him as that help in the passing game, and then as a really strong box safety.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're testing him as, and I heard Dabo Sweeney talk about maybe or the concept of maybe seeing what Wade Woodaz has on the inside as far as linebacker depth, right? Since maybe Clemson will be playing a lot more nickel with Makuba on the outside, and then R.J. Mickens, and all that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of different ways Clemson can play it, but like you, I would like to see him down closer to the line of scrimmage in run help, especially he gained all that muscle this offseason, 10 pounds of muscle. He put in the work. I think he's going to be a much better tackler. Not that he's been a bad tackler in the past, but he's got the body to kind of back it up this season, and I'm interested to see how it works. And I don't expect for you know I guess I should put it this way. I fully expect the defensive coordinator Wes Goodwin to put the best group of defenders on the field at any given time, regardless of what scheme, what situation he has to run. He's going to put the best players on the field together at the same time, and that's all you can hope from your defense and from your coaches. So I think Clemson's in a very good position when it comes to that. I'm not excited about him not being in his natural position. But again, maybe they flex it in a way to where he kind of still is. Maybe they're playing it in a different way, right? Based off of personnel, based off of, those type of things. And that could be a thing. So, there's a lot of different ways to play formations and tilt things and, disguise things. And, there's always ways to make things happen. So we'll see how it works out. I'm excited to see Wade Woodaz is definitely put on some size this offseason. So maybe he could slide into the box. Who knows? You never know where guys will succeed. We started off last season, flipped kind of at linebacker, and then we kind of adjusted as the season went on and kind of found our groove. So, everything's up in the air. But I do think that we will figure it out as the game goes on. And I do think that Dabo is 100% correct in that this is a salty defense. And more importantly than that, I think this is a physical defense. I think this is a defense with attitude. I think this is a defense that takes pride in what they do. And I think that goes for the offense as well. It's just a team mentality. The mentality of this Clemson team seems different this season. And it's exciting to see. I can't wait to see it. We'll open up Labor Day night. I saw somebody in the chat ask if it was a primetime game. Yeah, it's a standalone game.
Yeah, it's the only game on that night.
It's Clemson and Duke. It's the only college football game on Monday night. On Labor Day, Clemson and Duke. We will be the game that everyone is watching. And I hope we absolutely do not disappoint for that game. I hope Clemson shows up ready, hungry, and if these interviews from the players and the coaches alike tell me anything, it tells me that this Clemson team is laser focused. They are ready, and they are just itching for week one when they can line up across from another opponent that is not their defense or their offense.
Absolutely. Do you want to go ahead and hit these questions?
Absolutely, man. Let's send it to the chat for the rest of the show. You guys will control the rest of the show, man. So get your questions in, get your comments in, get anything that you want us to talk about before we cut out of here tonight. We appreciate you guys stopping by.
WB2DX gets in. Yeah, asked me specifically, but you can answer too.
There you go. No.
Do you think Woodaz will have a breakout year? I mean, yeah, I think just from everything that the coaching staff is really high on him. He's been, I think they really love his versatility. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. They've been playing him at different positions. You saw him at safety last year, playing linebacker as well. I think they're just giving him a shot at a lot of different positions. I think he has some upside as a pass rusher as well. So there's some things that you can do with him, and I think he's made some changes to his body. He's put on some muscle, some really good weight. So I think that definitely that also helps. So he's a guy that they think they can play all over the field right now, and closer to the line of scrimmage as a safety, traditional linebacker role. I think they're really high on his upside. So definitely expect to see him have a lot of big plays this year. We're going to be seeing a lot of Jamal Anderson. Yeah, I think so. And especially, with TJ Dudley's dismissal, he's going to have to play. Him, Kobe McLeod, D. Creighton. I think you're going to see those guys play a lot more than maybe we would have otherwise. I think you have to. I think Jamal Anderson is. I'm extremely high on Jamal Anderson. So this could, even if he takes his lumps early on, I think that this could be a blessing in disguise because I really look and am high on his football ability and his upside in this defense. Walter gets in. He says, any idea how they might use Josh Sapp? He's only 6'1", but looked pretty good in the spring game. Maybe as a halfback or fullback catching passes out of the backfield. Well, I think you did see it some. They're going to use him as an inline tight end, but I think he's a guy that could split out wide. I think he has a lot of upside as a receiving option.
And look, Dabo talked about all of those tight ends, right? Brenning Stool, Sapp, all of those tight ends, and he talked about Clemson's going to do a scrimmage this Saturday, and he's really excited to see how those tight ends are implemented into the game plan, how they respond to a scrimmage type setting. So Josh Sapp's going to be one of those guys that he's really looking at to see how he can contribute to this Clemson offense this season. So it's not only Brenning Stool, it's Sapp, and it's the other guy's name is escaping. Sage Ennis. Thank you, Sage Ennis, Josh Sapp, Jake Brenning Stool. Those guys, he's really looking. If you listen to Dabo's interview, he's really looking for those guys to show themselves in this first scrimmage and kind of see where they can contribute to Clemson's offense this year. Because I think the tight end position was probably one of the most underutilized positions for Clemson, not only last year, but in years past as well. So.
John gets in and says, you think they'll sub Easton some this year? He certainly seems mentally ready, dressing out and all. Yeah.
Bro, did you see him?
Yeah.
Did you see the video?
I don't think I didn't see the video. I saw a picture. I saw the picture.
Look, man, no. You need to go watch the video. I'm trying to tell you, I would not want to line up across from that guy. He said, I wish I could line up across from one of you.
I think we can find some eligibility left in him.
Does he got a year or two, something? My goodness.
He looks good, man.
Bro, he looks good. He's an animal, man.
Yeah.
You see all the weight he's lost since he's been at Clemson? My good, this dude
he's transformed his body.
He's got to be the most insane coach on planet Earth. Yeah. He's got no quit with his guys. Like his dude's got to be 100 miles an hour all the time. Like this man's putting on pads and strapping up a helmet pre-practice.
Yeah, this was not something Todd Bates was doing.
What are you gonna do? Go tell him your ankle hurts? Like that's not gonna work. You can't tell him that.
He's out there doing the drills.
This man's out here doing jumping jacks with you. Like he's like 35 years old. What are you doing? Get back on the field, man.
It's great. It's great.
It's crazy.
I hope Kobe McLeod is as good as Ray is. Yeah, I mean that'd be great. I mean, different positions, but I think
absolutely. Yeah,
I think the staff has been really complimentary of him, and I think that there's some hope that he can be a really, really good player here. So, and we'll definitely see him a lot more.
Like year. I said, he's up to 240. He's off into the future, but I do think he's definitely got a future of contribution at Clemson for sure. No doubt about it.
Vegas, do y'all think we're in a recruiting question? Do y'all think we're in a good position to land Bradley Shaw? I think it's too early to say right now. I do think it's encouraging that they made his top. I think they made his top 8 already, or some. I think he released the top schools and Clemson was in it. But he's going to take his visits into this the season, so we'll kind of see how that shakes out. But I think it's too early to tell right now. Do you think that Do you think that Dab will know not to take the foot off the gas on FSU and other teams? Well, I mean, I think that should be kind of a point of emphasis this year, is just finishing games like a team that's competing for a national championship, college football playoff, all of that. That's something that they did not do very well last year. Obviously the Florida State game jumps out, but even some of the the quote unquote cupcake games, the Furman game was about as ugly as of a blowout victory as there could be. The Louisiana Tech game, taking your starters out and then them scoring a quick touchdown, and then it was a 2-score game and trotting them right back out in the fourth quarter. That's stuff like that. You want more of what Clemson did to North Carolina in the ACC championship game, where they were just Hunter Johnson got in and played snaps. Like that's the kind of those are the kind of victories you want, and you feel really good about the defense, not the defense holding, but also the offense, just even if they're not necessarily scoring, but sustaining drives and running out the clock, and not having short non-time consuming drives. We got a question for you.
Whoa.
Who do you see as our shutdown corner?
Shutdown corner. Number one, I got to go Nate Wiggins. Reason being, because of his growth last season, right? I saw Nate Wiggins go from death to life, from the grave and back last season. He had probably his lowest point last season. He probably had his highest point last season, and he had a lot of points in between. But the one thing that I think Nate Wiggins has demonstrated every single week as a Clemson Tiger is mental toughness. And I think it's the most important characteristic as a cornerback when it comes to any level of football, whether it be high school, college, or the NFL. You have to have a certain level of mental toughness when it comes to playing the cornerback position. So I think Nate Wiggins is number one. Obviously, you got a lot of different guys, right? You got a Jaden Lucas, who Dabo talked about, who is a guy that is physically has all the gifts of an elite cornerback, right? But availability has been a problem with him, and a certain level of maturity and a certain level of dedication has been a problem with Jaden Lucas, right? So if he could figure it out, I think he could be a guy that could really contribute. I think you saw a guy like Toriano Pride grow up a ton last year. Again, I've talked about it endlessly on this channel about how we struggled in the secondary last year. If you look at our numbers, they were terrible last year in the secondary. But the one benefit that Clemson had was we had to play a lot of young guys. And guess what? They had a lot of valuable snaps, and they gained a lot of valuable experience in real-time games and real-time situations where the game was on the line. So therefore, now we have not only a one deep, because all of our guys came back, in a Nate Wiggins, in a
Sheridan
Jones, and guys like that. Our senior guys came back, but also we got those young guys grown up last season. So we went through all those growing pains last season, and we gained all the benefits. And now this season, we get to reap the fruits of those labors, right? We get to reap the fruits of a Toriano Pride growing up, of a Jaden Lucas growing up, and all of those guys getting all those valuable reps that they otherwise would not have gotten if we would have been healthy at corner, which we clearly were not last season. So I think that's kind of my overall synopsis of the secondary. But we got a lot of dudes at cornerback. I mean, we got a lot of dudes. Avion Terrell is a freshman, right? He's coming in. He's kind of doing his thing. We got a ton of guys. Miles Oliver, Sheldon Lewis. We got a ton of guys at corner. I think corner is one of our deepest positions, along with safety, right along the defensive side of the ball. I think it goes probably defensive tackle, safety, cornerback, right? Those are kind of our deepest positions when it comes to this Clemson defense, which is super encouraging, right? Basically, our entire secondary is a deep group, right? Second safety and cornerback are very deep groups. Defensive tackle is a deep group. We're kind of thin at defensive end. We're kind of thin at linebacker. But overall, I think this defense for Clemson is going to be freaking lights out, people. I think it's going to be lights out. It's going to be something special, man. But we got several lockdown corners. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick Nate Wiggins just because I think his mental toughness is just the next level, man. Because you saw him get beat down over and over and over and over again in the Wake Forest game. And guess who came up with the game-winning breakup pass? Nate Wiggins. That takes a certain mental toughness. And to me, that tells me that you're that guy. You're that guy. You can dump a touchdown, and then you can create a pick six on the very next possession. Because guess what? You just don't care. It is what it is, right? So that's who I would pick, and that's why I would pick him.
Yeah, I tend to agree too. I think he's the closest. He reminds me a lot of, as far as just his approach to the game and kind of his mentality, reminds me a lot of Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of guy, that's kind of the personality you need to be a true lockdown corner. Like I remember Mackenzie in that Orange Bowl against Oklahoma, just going at just jawing back and forth with Sterling Shepard and holding him to, I think, like one of his season lows in receiving yards that year. So just that's the kind of mentality you need. Walter Burke says, "What are the top 3 most critical games on both of your opinions this season?" That's a good question. Top 3 most critical games. So
most critical games.
So it may not necessarily be the 3 toughest games. It may just be the games you have to win.
South Carolina #1.
Yeah, I think South Carolina.
I mean, that goes without saying, though.
Yeah.
South Carolina #1.
Florida. I'll say Florida State.
Yeah, just because of all the offseason talk and all the national media talk and all the propping up that the national media has done for Florida State, I said they're definitely a close #2 to the Gamecocks.
And then third, I'm going to go Duke.
You're going to go Duke. Okay.
And I think just
why
because,
you think Duke?
I think simply because it's the opener, and I think you're in front of a national audience, and I think you have the opportunity. I think it could be a really real tone setter for the rest of your season. I don't think it's again. This is not the 3 toughest games on Clemson's schedule, because I would say this list would be a little bit different. But I do think that winning the opener, and that's obviously one of the goals of the Clemson program every year, is winning the opener. That's
absolutely
what they said every single year.
But I'm going to go a little bit different than you. I'm going to go USC #1, obviously. The Chickens.
USC Junior.
Yeah, USC Junior. My bad. I'm sorry. The guys over in the concrete chicken coop that is Columbia. That's #1. #2 is Florida State, because they got loud mouths and they think they've already won the ACC. #3 for me is Notre Dame, because of the way that we lost to Notre Dame last year. I understand, and I halfway agree with you because of the Duke game that you picked, which is really good. But Notre Dame for me, just because of the way that they dominated Clemson last year, it just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. We have to avenge that loss. It's a must-win for Clemson this year. Notre Dame cannot come into Death Valley and beat us this year, because we got out physical last season by Notre Dame, and it's just unacceptable for Clemson to be that out physical in a college football game against another team. We're just too good for that. So that would be why that's my number 3.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly valid too. And yeah, the Notre Dame game is huge as well, and I was kind of tussling back and forth, but
no,
but
I'm glad we picked different games because Notre Dame came to my mind first, and then you picked Duke, so I'm glad we picked different games.
I think another one that kind of flies under the radar is at NC State. I think that's one that begins. I think that begins that little stretch.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Was it NC State, Notre Dame, and then Miami? I don't remember what the order is, but that's kind of a tricky little stretch in Clemson's schedule. I think that's a critical game. You could also, you get North Carolina at home, so it was hard to put that one up. I think at NC State is huge, especially you lost the last time you went up there. So I do think that one you could argue that one, but I think Duke being the opener, I think it's a critical game. It's
for sure.
You're in front of a national audience. It's prime time, and it's a chance to set the tone for the rest of the season and really have a big performance.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If Clemson loses to Duke, everybody's going to write them off after week 1.
Oh yeah.
So we won't have to worry about any other talk about Clemson if we lose week 1. And that's really no offense to Duke at all. It's just I think people are teetering on the expectations of Clemson. And I think if we lose to Duke, they'll tank completely in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
If we lose that game, for sure.
Right. I agree. Let me see. I don't want to see any more trick play. I don't want to see any more trick plays on kickoffs. Yeah.
You mean no more huddles and weird stuff? Yeah.
I don't particularly care for those. No.
I don't like them either.
D-Way 467. He says, "Who do you guys think is the fastest on the defense?" That's tough, and that's something that we haven't really talked about. But the speed on this as a whole on this team, I think, is really really good. I mean, and Dabo has talked about it. He says this might be the fastest team he's had from.
I think maybe pound for pound, like this
might be XT.
This is just me spitballing. Yeah, I was just gonna say that pound for pound, I would go XT.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I have no idea. Maybe Barrett Carter. That'd probably be a good pick as well. I'm just talking about like sheer size and strength. I would go XT1, Barrett Carter 2. But again, I could be completely wrong on that.
Yeah, XT he's been clocked at like I don't remember what the number was, but he's been dusting people on the radar gun so far. So just from what I've heard is XT has been
have you seen the dude? I'm trying to look. Hey. I don't want to be the quarterback that gets sacked by that guy. I'm trying to tell you, I would not want to be.
Yeah, and there's not many quarterbacks that are going to be outrunning him too.
No, there is not. There is not.
That is scary for a defense, to have as a defensive end. All right, let's see.
J.R. Gent says Nate Wiggins is the fastest on the defense.
Yeah, I think he's up there as well. But yeah. There's some really good speed on this team. It's really hard to pick, but
yeah, it is.
From what I've heard, XT is about as fast as it gets, especially for a guy his size. Is TJ Dudley going to play this year at Ole Miss? Can't keep up. Yeah, I don't. I have not. I've decided to put all of that out of my mind. I really don't know whether he'll be eligible because of the circumstances. But I don't know what the rules are on that. Hey, Joey gets in. Joey Foster. He says, "Jordan Bowman, the man. Great to see you, brother. Good to see you, Joey. Thanks for stopping by."
Hey, Joey, is the ACC trying to bring you to the dead conference as well? I'm just wondering. I don't
Yeah,
know.
at this point, nothing would surprise me. But
stay in the Big 12.
thanks for tuning in, Joey. Joey does a lot of good work across the Mark Rogers channels, and does a lot of producing, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So
Joey's the man, guys.
Yeah, he keeps a lot of this stuff running. So
yeah. If you see a lot of the Mark Rogers channels and the Mark Rogers Productions, this is the guy behind the scenes making all the stuff work. So shout out to him, man.
Jackson Johnson gets it. What's up, Clemson? Good to see you, Jackson.
Hey, what's up, man?
Host of the Jacksonian. He's got a really good show, college football show going on. I'll make sure to check him out. Yeah.
What kind of college football show?
It's the Jacksonian. It's the Jacksonian. Yeah.
Jacksonian. Yeah. It's like the Museum of College Football. I like it, man. I got to check that out.
That sounds a really catchy nickname.
That's catchy, man. The Jacksonian. I like it. Shout out to him, man.
Yeah, John, reiterate. Yeah, I'd include Duke. Yeah, as far as the critical game. Yeah, I tend to agree. The first real test of the new offense with some new players against the defense with a pulse. Won't get another chance until obviously game 4. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I just think we can get away with a little bit more in game 1. So I don't know. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy game. That's for sure. Duke's been preparing for this game for a year now. So,
WB2 24-21. What in favor of Clemson for that would be a
heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take a win.
I'll take it anytime. I'll take it anytime, man.
That's going to be a really, really competitive game. David Wood, NC State has Brendan Armstrong now. That definitely makes that game a lot more interesting. They also got his old offensive coordinator.
They do.
Robert Denai. So
we'll see if they can put something together. We'll see kind of how that works out. But again, Dave Doran will figure out a way to mess it up for sure.
Well, yeah, if history is any indicator,
he can't buy a good quarterback.
Well, honestly, the quarterbacks haven't been the issue. It's just he hasn't had great offenses with those quarterbacks. I mean,
that's true.
He's had Ryan Finley and
that's true. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I take that back.
He just hasn't.
The complete offense.
Particularly great.
For sure.
In a minute. Let's see. David Wood says, I liked that huddle play. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah. I'll let you have that one. JR the Gent says Nate Wiggins. Yeah. Okay. I think I got that. Fastest on the defense. Yeah. He could be a legit forward.
For sure. Yeah. He could be.
Walter gets, are you guys concerned with our 24 O-line recruit class so far? Concern is probably not the right word for it. I mean, I think it's a little disappointing. And I've said it before. I'm not particularly high on this O-line class in general for the 2024 class, and not filling up those spots with high-profile guys might help you going into 25. But yeah, it sucks to miss on your top targets, especially the way you did. I mean, you didn't get the in-state guys you wanted, and then you only got one of the out-of-state kids you wanted, and now you're kind of scrambling to get what's left. But I don't think it's particularly damaging because I think the past 2 cycles have given you a mulligan at least for this cycle. But I do think you need to hit offensive line hard next cycle for sure. And there are a lot of good options in the 25 class. What did Dudley do? Yeah, David, I'm not going to talk about it here, but it was not good. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, I'd say the fastest on offense is Tyler Brown. He got clocked in a game running at 22 plus. Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely has a legitimate stake to being the fastest on offense. He's got elite speed for sure. Joey Foster. This is a good question. Guys, we need a moderator in this room. It is almost football season. Show host, tell me who to mod up for you. Honestly, I think this is, I don't want to, step on, hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but I think this is an obvious choice. A guy that's been here regularly, is one of the most loyal people in the Mark Rogers space in general. I think John Sarian, I think he'd be my first pick for a moderator. I don't know about you. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry. I had to step away for a minute.
Joey asked, who to mod up for this channel, and I nominated John Sarian. I think he.
For sure. Yeah, John Sarian for sure. He would definitely be my first choice. Maybe WB2DX. He's always in here as well.
Yeah.
Those guys, they're our consistent guys that are in here literally since day one, since we started this show. Pretty when much. There was like 5 people watching us. So yeah, no doubt.
Tigers gets in. He says he missed my post.
What'd you say? What'd you say, Tigers?
Is this directed at me?
Scroll up and see what we missed. What did we miss from Tigers J?
Let us know. I don't know if there was something particular. I don't know if he asked us a question. I don't see it.
Now you got to eat a bucket of kids chicken to honor.
I don't even know what this is in reference to at this point.
I don't either. Is that it?
I don't
or this one?
I don't know which one.
Shame on you guys to call them USC. Is that it? That might be it.
WB2 gets in and says, did you guys see where ESPN stated that Clemson's? Well, it wasn't ESPN. It was Aaron Murray.
Look here, man.
Aaron Murray's just salty. He never beat Clemson. So
look, it is what it is. You can say we're overrated if you want to. If you look at Clemson's talent, if you look at their roster as a whole, no, absolutely not. You can't say Clemson is overrated.
Right.
You can say if someone came into the 2023 season saying, I'm cautiously optimistic maybe about Clemson, sure. But overrated? How? Overrated how?
Yeah.
What is Clemson being rated that they shouldn't be rated?
Yeah,
what is the rating? Are we picked to win the national championship? No. Are we even picked to make the playoffs in most situations? No. So I don't. What is overrated? To compete for the ACC, is that overrated?
I don't know.
If that's overrated, I would call that person absolutely insane. There's no way that's overrated.
I mean, the coaches poll just came out this week, and they had Florida State ahead of Clemson. I mean, exactly. Clemson just won the conference last year, so I mean, I don't know who is overrating Clemson. Yeah, I
don't find anyone rating Clemson above what, top 12, top 10 maybe. Yeah. It's like where Clemson's kind of landing.
If anything, people have been mostly dismissive of Clemson, and
everybody's like, oh well, Clemson ain't got no receivers. Yeah. That's kind of the consensus with the national media when it comes to Clemson. We got no receivers, and Cade's got no one to throw to. So, I don't think Clemson's being disrespected, but to say they're being overrated. No, absolutely not. I don't think they're being overrated at all.
Yeah.
Maybe underrated, but again, Clemson's got to go on the field and prove that.
Yeah.
So I would say they're, maybe properly rated, fairly treated. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Clemson being at 10 or 12. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
We'll go on the field. And if we're a better team than that, it'll be obvious. And if we're not, again, it'll be obvious. So I don't think it's a big deal at all. We're not being rated top 5 consensus in the country, so I don't see how you could say they're being overrated at all.
Yeah. No, Aaron Murray's just salty. He lost to Clemson, never beat him.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
Don't worry. There's been a lot of Georgia quarterbacks that beat Clemson.
He'll have somebody else to join his club. It'll be what's his name this year?
Well, I would assume Carson Beck isn't there next year. So maybe seems like Gunnar Stockton might be the next guy. So who knows? But all I know is Aaron Murray is never getting that win. So
no, he's never getting that win.
And he's been dismissive of Clemson before, so this doesn't surprise me.
Whatever, it'll be okay. Calm down.
John gets in. He says, "Loving my new wrench." Hey, glad
my man.
You got it. And WB2DX, but he got his too. Also,
is John and WB2DX our first moderators?
Oh yeah.
Shout out to them too, man. Thank you for stopping by, guys. Your dedication and your loyalty to me and Jordan has not gone unnoticed, obviously. So we appreciate you guys. We look forward to your comments every time, and then you keep all the other degenerates in line like yourselves. So,
absolutely, we appreciate it 100%. All right.
He said neither Aaron nor Herschel beat Clemson.
Well, I don't. Well, Herschel never scored a touchdown against Clemson. I think they did. Because they did beat Clemson in 1980, but. I do know that, but
that's almost worse.
He never scored a touchdown against Clemson. Neither did George Rogers. Shout out to any South Carolina fans.
Hey, there you go.
George Rogers never scored a touchdown against Clemson too. So, hey, those early Danny Ford Clemson teams, man, those defenses were nasty,
brutal. Yeah, brutal.
2 Heisman winners couldn't score on them.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. I just see most people, talking about the disrespect. Yeah, it is what it is. When you've had the past couple of seasons that Clemson has had, people were waiting for that kind of slip from the mountaintop, and now that they've seen it,
absolutely, man,
they've gone all in.
It was always going to come. It was always going to come. They were waiting for Clemson to slip. They've got their opening. And now they're going to exploit it as long as they possibly can. Unfortunately for them, I don't think it's going to be too much longer. If it's judging by this Clemson team has a renewed hunger. They got a renewed belief in their offense. They got a renewed belief in their quarterback. We got 2 elite running backs. We got 4 returning offensive linemen. We got a healthy wide receiver room. We got an elite defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. So I think Clemson's got the recipe for sustained success over the season. If luck and health and all of those things, continue to be on our side, I think we're in for quite the season as Clemson Tigers, as college football fans. It's going to be a fun season. Me and you will be breaking down every pregame show. We'll be breaking down every postgame show. So for all of you guys that are here, I know there's 26 of you here right now. Every single Thursday, we'll be right here. We'll be breaking down the Clemson game, and then immediately following every Clemson game, whether it be on Thursday, Saturday, Monday, don't care what day it's on, me and Jordan will be right here immediately following the Clemson game to have a live post-game reaction video for you guys, for you to get your thoughts out, for us to get our thoughts out, and everything in between. So that's going to kind of be the format going forward as the season goes on. The All-In Show will move from 1 episode a week to 2 episodes a week. We'll do a pregame show. We'll do a postgame live. and all of you guys will be there. So we appreciate you all showing up and showing out. Jordan, I think we've covered all that we wanted to tonight.
Yeah, I think we have, and I'm glad we spent most of it on stuff we actually like to talk about, and that's football stuff. So I think that's great. We had to address the realignment stuff and just kind of give our thoughts, but it's really good to really just spend a lot of time on football, and the season's almost here, and that's. I think with everything going on off the field and all the craziness surrounding it, it's nice to just be able to focus on this one season, and really just, September 4th. And I think you go from there because at the end of the day, we still have college football, and this is still going to be a season to remember and something to enjoy. So I'm really excited to share it with all of you this year.
Yeah, man. Look, guys, there's 29 of you in here right now. Please, 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 please share. Please like this video. Please comment on this video. Even after we in the live, come back, comment on the video, like the video, share it in your Clemson groups, spread it out there. Look, we are at 4,500 subscribers right now. We're trying to grow that so much this season. Okay, we're trying to get that out there a ton this season. So help us out. Get our channel out there. Get our show out there. It's the All In Show every Thursday, 7 p.m. I'll be here. Jordan will be here. We'll do a pregame show. We'll do a live postgame reaction for every show. Win, lose, or draw. Me and Jordan will be there. I can promise you that. You can ask anyone that was here.
But
yeah, you can ask anyone here from last season. We were here in the most painful of losses and the most greatest of wins. So please come out, show us some love. WB2DX, John Sarian, you guys got your wrenches now. We appreciate you guys being the OGs from day one, supporting our show. So we showed you some love tonight as well. And without further ado, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. We will see you next Thursday. Don't be late. We got a special episode for you coming next Thursday. So do not be late. Next Thursday, 7 p.m., right here on the All In Show, the Clemson Tiger channel at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you next week.
Later, y'all.
Later.